Thank you, Lauren. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to all of our viewers all over the world. Thank you very much for joining us. If you are watching this, it is because you are interested in a career in regulatory sciences or clinical investigation and research. My name is Ita. I am Executive Director of Global Strategy at a university called the Massachusetts College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences, or MCPHS for short. The Massachusetts College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences has been educating healthcare leaders for over 200 years. Our vision is to create a healthier, more equitable world by empowering our community, educating with passion, and serving with care. MCPHS has grown to become one of the world's most comprehensive health sciences university in the world, offering over 100 academic programs in various professions of health, including healthcare practice, research, disease prevention, and healthcare business and management, as well as technology and data sciences, and the life and biomedical sciences. This university is the premier institution for expertise in the education of health professionals. It is with this expertise that we have created this webinar series to assist students who are contemplating a program in one of these areas. We realize that you are in the process of deciding which university is the best fit for you, and today we'd like to help you understand which career may be right for you and what characteristics you should be looking at in the programs that you are considering in order to be successful in that career. We know that it's not easy to know what to look for or which questions to ask. So that is what this webinar is for, to help you ask the right questions of your future academic program. Today, our focus will be in comparing these 4 programs, explain their differences, and asking questions that you should ask of all the programs and all the universities or schools that you are considering. In order to do that, we have the pleasure of the presence of 2 panelists that I think you will find fascinating. Dr. Fred Frankhauser, first of all, thank you very much for starting your busy day off with us today. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your connection with the programs we are about to discuss?
Great, thank you, Ida. Hello, everyone. My name is Fred Frankhauser, and I'm the department chair for the Pharmaceutical Business and Administrative Science Department at MCPHS, but I'm also the program director for the 4 programs: the Regulatory Affairs, Regulatory Sciences, Clinical Research, as well as the Master's in Clinical Investigation and Development. I began my career as a pharmacist. I'm also an alumnus of MCPHS. I furthered my education with a Juris Doctorate degree, as well as a master's in business. As I entered law school, my goal was to become a patent attorney. But after my first year in law school, I was introduced to regulatory affairs. And I thought, what better way to integrate both my law degree with my pharmacy degree by working within a regulated industry such as regulatory affairs and specializing in either the pharmaceutical industry or within pharmacy. I came back to MCPHS. I started teaching at MCPHS about 20 years ago. My areas of teaching include pharmacy law, regulatory affairs, as well as health policy development and analysis. Thank you, Ida, for the opportunity to give a background of myself.
Thank you, Dr. Frankhauser. And to share the student perspective, Neha Patel from Canada is joining us today. Neha, thank you so much for your time. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you to MCPHS?
Hi, Ita. Good morning, Dr. Frankhauser. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my experiences. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. So a little bit about myself, that my background is dentistry. I was dentist in Canada. I was dentist in India, and I was pursuing my career as a dental office manager in Canada for past 3 years. I was going through a little bit of burnout, and I was looking for a changing career that would give me an opportunity to serve human life on day-to-day basis. And I was looking for careers that would be associated in healthcare industry itself and have a meaningful impact on it. And I'm lucky to have friends who are working in Longwood Medical area, wherever university is located, at different pharmaceutical companies at different positions. And I had deep, thoughtful conversations with them, and they guided me on what the regulatory profession is and what their day-to-day life entails, the work entails at various as a various regulatory professions. And this experience with them, this discussion with them, gave me a clear idea on the impact that regulatory field has on the pharmaceutical and medical device industry and how it affects our day-to-day life without us even realizing. So that's why I chose regulatory affairs and health policies as my career option. Thank you.
Thank you, Neha. Let's jump right in. Dr. Frankhauser, if we could start with you. MCPHS offers a Master of Science in Regulatory Affairs and Health Policy, as well as a Master of Science in Regulatory Science. Can you begin by explaining the difference between the terms regulatory sciences and regulatory affairs, and what types of careers each one prepares a student for?
Yes, thank you, Ida, for the opportunity to speak about the differences. Regulatory sciences, we look at the definition here, we can see that it focuses on not only the scientific, but also the technical foundations upon which regulations are based. So when we look at regulatory sciences, we're looking at it from not only the regulations of how a drug or a medical device gets approved, but also the science behind the approval process. Whereas regulatory affairs really focuses on the legal and administrative aspects, whether that be the regulations itself, preparing the new drug application or the IND. But the little nuance there is that we're looking at, from the regulatory sciences, we're looking at more of the science aspects of the drug approval process, whether it's a abbreviated new drug approval for generic drugs. We'll look at the science behind active pharmaceutical ingredients or APIs. We'll also look at the science of showing what is needed to substantiate the bioavailability or the bioequivalency of that product versus just specifically looking at the regulations. So there's a little bit of a science twist with the regulatory sciences degree versus the regulatory affairs.
Now, students might not be familiar with the specific careers that each of the two programs would lead to. Could you delve a little deeper into what the careers are that would differentiate the two?
Yeah, so with the regulatory affairs degree, students entering the field would look for a regulatory affairs associate position, whereas with the regulatory sciences, typically the students may look for positions as a regulatory scientist or something to that manner as it relates to their degree and their future aspects of their career development.
Thank you. Now, the MS in Regulatory Science is STEM eligible. What does that mean, Dr. Frankhauser?
Yes. My understanding with STEM eligibility is that the acronym STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. With the STEM eligible, students may be eligible for an additional 24 months of work authorization if they complete a program in a STEM designated field.
So that pertains specifically to students on an F1 visa. Any student on an F1 visa would be eligible for 1 year of optional practical training, or OPT. And what you're speaking about is an additional 2 years when the program is listed as STEM OPT eligible by CVIS, or the agency that allows students to work after graduating. So that would mean a total of 3 years of work in the United States for practical training after graduation from the program, from the regulatory science program. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah.
Thank you. So that's a total of 3 years. Now, before getting into OPT, the regulatory science program is 6 years longer than the regulatory affairs and health policy program, but not 6 years, forgive me, 6 credits longer. So students would take a little longer to graduate from the regulatory science degree, and it also would mean more tuition for the regulatory science degree. Why is that, Dr. Frankhauser?
It's actually the students will be able to complete the degree at the 2 degrees at the same time. So even though it's 6 credits more in regulatory sciences, students will, well, if they chose the pathway of regulatory sciences or regulatory affairs, they do finish that program if they're full-time students within 4 semesters. And with the regulatory science program, the difference between the regulatory science and regulatory affairs is really that there are the courses are relating more to the regulatory science field. So there is 2 additional science classes that the students will take in the regulatory sciences as opposed to the regulatory affairs classes.
So they take two classes more, but they graduate at the same time. That being said, regulatory affairs is available online as well. Is regulatory science program and courses, are they available online as well?
So as it relates to the courses, some of the courses are available online. You know, it's really dependent on the type of student that is coming into the university. If the student is on an international student visa, the students would be required to take courses on campus. Full-time eligibility is 9 credits for our graduate studies, and out of those 9 credits, at least 6 have to be in person. And we do have that flexibility if the student wanted to take an online class, that they do have that availability to take a online class in that program of study, whether it's the regulatory sciences or the regulatory affairs program.
So in other words, both programs take place on the Boston campus. And if students are on an F1 visa and they want to stay on the Boston campus, they can only take one online class. But otherwise, if they're not in the United States, or anyone who is not in Boston, international or not, could take on the program online, the programs online.
Yes, the regulatory affairs and health policy course, that course is actually online only, or it's Boston based as well as online, whereas the MS in regulatory sciences at this time, it's just Boston based.
And is it possible to start either in the fall or in the spring for both programs? And maybe I'll go ahead and ask, what about summer? Can they take extra classes in the summer?
Sure. So to answer the first question, we do have the availability and the flexibility to start either in the fall or in the spring semester. And as it relates to the summer classes, if the student is eligible to take summer classes, they are able to, take summer classes and possibly finish the program a little bit earlier as well. So we're flexible in the manner in which the student proceeds through the program, as well as the manner in which that they are going to complete their required classes to complete their degree.
So it sounds like the program really offers a great deal of flexibility depending on each student situation. I think maybe that would be one of the first questions that we would have a student ask of any of the programs. Is number one, is the program STEM eligible if they are an international student? And maybe number 2, is the program flexible? Could you please walk us through the actual curriculum of the regulatory sciences program, and maybe at the same time indicate some of the differences with the regulatory affairs curriculum?
Sure. So the regulatory science program, it is 36 credits, and you'll see that there are 4 terms that the student would complete. The typical first semester that the student enters the program, they're going to take DRA 804, which is an introduction to FDA and regulatory affairs. They take DRA 807, which is statistics and clinical research, and they also take a fundamentals of pharmaceutical class. You'll note that we do have the flexibility in the programs because there is some overlap with the regulatory affairs program as well as the MS in regulatory sciences. And what that means is that, let's assume that a student enters the program in the regulatory affairs, the MS in regulatory affairs and health policy, and then they decide later down after the first semester that they would like to maybe pursue a degree in Master of Science in Regulatory Sciences. They are able to still transition into the Master of Science in Regulatory Sciences and without really losing any time or taking extra classes because of the way that the program is developed, and it gives the students a little flexibility that way. So the first semester, whether you enter into the fall or spring, you'll take those 3 classes. The second semester of the program, students take DRA 808, which is the protection of human research subjects. It's a course relating to like IRBs, which are institutional review boards, as well as maybe outside of the US, that's your ethics committees. So you'll learn issues relating to obtaining informed consent, as well as like privacy issues. In the US, we deal with HIPAA, which is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, whereas outside the US, there may be other laws such as the GDPR, which is the General Data Protection Regulation. So students can introduce those concepts. They'll also take a health epidemiology class and a pharmaceutical ingredients for regulatory sciences. That's the, the 2 courses there, the fundamentals of pharmaceuticals, as well as the pharmaceutical ingredients for regulatory sciences. Those are really the 2 science classes that are different from the regulatory affairs with the regulatory science program that way. The third semester, students will take the generic drug and biosimilar class, as well as the chemistry, manufacturing controls, and principles of quality assurance. Once again, those 3 classes, those are required classes in the regulatory sciences, but they are also offered in our MS in regulatory affairs and health sciences, which also, would help with that flexibility for the students to decide whether or not that they want to transition from one program to the other. So we are flexible with that. And then in the Master of Science Regulatory Sciences, the last semester, students take a capstone and 2 of the elective courses that are required for the total of the 36 credits. Just noting here that the regulatory sciences, as well as the regulatory affairs programs, they are capstone driven, so they are course based rather than being thesis based. As it relates to the electives, you'll see that our electives that we offer range from different programs as well. So we do have the DRA 802, which is Law and Health Policy of Drugs and Devices. In that class, students tend to learn a little bit about not just the regulatory aspects of drug approval, but also issues relating to an introduction to health policy. So they get introduced to issues such as, let's say, patent law or controlled substances. We do offer a elective class in international regulatory affairs, as well as the development of and production of medical devices, just in case you want to broaden your studies and not just study drug-related issues, but also medical devices. And then we also have the availability for students to take classes such as our Introduction to Health Economics and Outcomes Research. That's also abbreviated as HEOR. So sometimes you may hear health economics or outcomes research. So we do have the availability to take a course on health economics and outcomes research, as well as if students are interested in furthering their degree and learning more about epidemiology, they can take the PEP 820 class, which is health services and outcomes research. But you'll also note on here that we are developing a course on cosmetics, because when we look at the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act in the US, not only does it the drug aspects of medical devices, but also cosmetics plays a role in that regulation as well. And then we do have a directed study as well as a practicum. And the practicum course is a course that students, if they have an interest in doing CPAP CPT, which is curriculum practicum training, they are eligible to take the practicum class during the summertime. It gives students experiences if they are looking for, like maybe they have an opportunity to work within an industry to obtain credit for that as well.
And the CPT for the international students or students on an F1 visa, curricular practical training, the CPT, when the student is able to take the internship within their CPT, then the student's OPT credits, the 3 years we were talking about, are not used up. So a student can have optional practical training during their studies, but that will tap into the credits that they have post-graduation. So what this program allows, Dr. Frankhauser, is you're allowing the student to use the practicum or the internship, to use CPT for the practicum internship and have the full 3 years after they graduate. Is that right?
That would be my understanding, as well, as long as the student signs up for that practicum course, and also as long as there is a relationship between the practicum experience that the student takes that relates to the actual degree of study. They'll be eligible for that, working with their international officer.
So the student would always have to go through the immigration office in our Center of International Studies to make sure that Immigration Services is not only aware, but approves of this CPT component.
That's correct.
Now, that's for international students, but for all students, this practicum allows an internship or real life experience that is fundamental for the student's job search post-graduation. Could you tell us a little bit about how the student practicum or internship will be supported by the school when they're looking for that internship?
Sure. As it relates to that experience, there is an office within the university. It's the Office of Career Services, and they also have an internship, like a little office within that office dealing with internships as well. So the university does support students for that. We do ask that the students provide us with information of what they've learned on their internship, so that we can better build our relationships, not only with the student doing their internship, but also with the industry mentor that they may be doing that internship or that practicum experience with. So we'd like to, hear from both ends of the spectrum there, not just the student's perspective, but also the, like the internship or the company perspective as well. And when we talk about companies, it doesn't necessarily mean that a student needs to do a internship with a pharmaceutical or medical device company. It could be like within an academic medical center or a hospital, that is conducting clinical research or some type of regulatory affairs aspect there.
Thank you. Now, each internship is going to depend on the student's personal interests, their profile, their career goals. But before they actually make the choice of starting with regulatory science or regulatory affairs program, would it be correct to say that a student needs to have a strong science background in order to be admitted first and then succeed in the regulatory science program?
With experience, I would say that it works best with the regulatory sciences because of the fact that, this is a master's level class and program. And if the student has not really undergone any type of the sciences before in their undergraduate studies, they may have a harder time jumping into the master level courses relating to the sciences that way. So I would say yes. But we do have that flexibility if the student enters in regulatory affairs and then they decide that they may be able to transition into that regulatory science degree, that there is a process for that. So we do have that flexibility.
Thank you for,
before I
yes,
end with that, one of the
yes.
other items I like to talk about with the regulatory sciences is that we do have connections not only for your employer, future employability, but also with the faculty. The faculty that teach in the program also work within industry, within the industry program. So the students will then increase their connections, whether it's not just connections within the students and talking to each other, but also connections within industry, because a lot of the professors that teach also work in that field. And what they'll do there is that these courses will help build that relationship of networking within the field, but also with networking comes the ability to increase your employability and also the relationship building, not just within the student network as well, but also within industry, the professional organizations. We as a university, we do have student organizations that the students can belong to, which then helps, with that relationship building and networking. So, like when a student enters the program, a lot of times the students think that they need to start looking for a job their last semester or right before graduation. However, we build that as a little bit of an opposite point of view, where we want the students thinking about where they're going to start working from basically like day one when they enter that program, so that they can build the relationships, provide that extracurricular activities and to, increase their opportunities to become employability at the time of graduation.
I'm really happy you mentioned that, because that is probably the most frequent question that students ask when they're choosing a program is academic study is important, but I want to make sure that I have a bridge to the industry when I start looking for a job after graduation. And I think that the elements that you've shared are one of the answers to that question. I'd like to come back to that in a little bit, if you don't mind, Dr. Frankhauser. Could we talk about the clinical investigation and clinical research? Because I believe there are a number of elements of this professionalism that you've explained that are common to both programs.
Yes, that's correct. Yep. So that's happy to speak about the clinical investigation versus clinical research, because just like with the regulatory affairs and regulatory sciences, you're going to see not only are these programs, the clinical investigation and clinical research, not only are they similar to like whether it be you enter into the program looking at being a Master of Science student in clinical research, or a regulatory affairs professional, and then deciding that they want to make that switch to a different program. So we're very flexible with that as well, because you'll see throughout the programs that the courses kind of interweave with each other as well. With clinical investigation, that individual, one of the students, when you graduate from their program, we're looking at not just the coordination of a clinical research project, but also mentoring of that project, as well as the supportive teams that implement the clinical research protocol. Clinical research, we're looking at, not only, conducting that clinical investigation, as a research coordinator or a research administrator, but within the Master of Science and clinical research, this program helps the students to get a better understanding of how clinical investigations are conducted in the United States, not only just from the protocol development, but also looking at, ways to detect as well as to treat and prevent disease. Now, with that being said, these are, you can enter the program here without having a medical degree or a pharmacy degree, but we do see a lot of individuals that enter into the clinical research field with prior experience in, let's say, something within medical, whether that be a pharmacy degree, or you have a nurse that wants to go back to school to become, rather than working in a hospital as a nurse, they can come back as a research nurse or a research coordinator that way. So there is flexibility within these programs as well. We don't want to say that as you begin the program, you're stuck in that program. We do have that flexibility for you to change and to possibly transfer into a different program at the university, with the courses being used in other programs at the university as well. So we're very flexible with that.
And could you, likewise, as you did with the previous programs, walk us through a comparison of the two? We'll go through the clinical investigation and development curriculum, and if you could call out the differences with the clinical research program, please.
Sure, happy to. With the MS in clinical investigation, we see clinical investigation and development, we see that this is also STEM OPT eligible. So this is 36 credits. It is on Boston, it is on campus, so it's on Boston location. It's also, we do have the flexibility if you're looking to start in the fall or the spring semester. So we do have those two starts, the fall and spring semester. Once again, the Master of Science in Clinical Research, this is not STEM OPT eligible. However, the difference here is that it's 30 credits, and we do have the Boston campus as well as the online program as well. If you're looking to complete the program completely online, you're eligible to do that, with the exception of being an international or an F1 student. We do have, as it relates to the flexibility of starting, fall starts as well as the spring start as well.
And the summer classes, I'd ask the same question. Do these programs have availability of summer classes if a student wanted to get ahead of their program?
Yeah, same as before. So the students do have that availability to take summer classes. If the student is an international student, one of the things that we do ask is that they do touch base with their international office advisor to let them know about it. And if a student decides that they wanted to accelerate the program, they are eligible to take summer classes as well. And as it relates to the program, both of them are non-thesis based programs as well, just like the regulatory affairs and regulatory science. They are, capstone driven. So it's a course that the students would take for that. Okay. So as it relates to the starting of the program, you'll see that the MS in clinical investigation and development follows the very similar track to that of the MS in regulatory sciences. So this way it gives the students a little bit of a flexibility to start out into the program, and they don't have to decide from day one that they want to be regulatory science or clinical investigation. There are 4 terms in the program, so 36 credits. And what we see here is the first semester, the students do take the DRA 804 FDA and Regulatory Affairs class, as well as the statistics class. And they take the same course that's the fundamentals of pharmaceuticals as the regulatory science students would take. The second term of the program, almost the same as what you would see in regulatory science program, but instead of taking the pharmaceutical ingredients for regulatory sciences, the students in their second term of the program take a clinical research protocol and design course. And that's where students are learning a little bit about the design of a clinical research protocol, as well as the components of a research protocol for that. But the other classes are the same, the health epidemiology, as well as the protection of human subject research.
And so, Dr. Frankhauser, I just wanted to call out something that I find very interesting. The students can choose to begin one of these 4 programs, and as they're evolving through the first term, and apparently maybe even the second term, they still have the flexibility not only to switch from, say, clinical research to clinical investigation and development, but also eventually into regulatory affairs or regulatory sciences. So by entering one program, the students actually have the option of all 4 programs. Is that correct?
That would be my understanding. Yes, that's correct. Yep. And the only stipulation would be that they always work with their international office advisor if they're changing programs or considering changing programs, as well as the program advisor. Yep. Okay. The third semester or the third term, students once again take 9 credits. And once again, with the flexibility, if the student decides that they want to take 6 credits on campus, they want to take 1 course online, they do have that flexibility as well there. So the students in their third semester take a course on clinical research coordination, because that's one of the goals of the program within clinical investigation, is to become a clinical research coordinator or administrator for that. They also take a class on GCP, GLP, and GMP. So these are your good clinical practice, your good laboratory practice, and your good manufacturing practice. And then as a little nuance here, if you're looking for drug safety, we do have the pharmacovigilance class. It's a required class, and that's a nice transition where if you're working as a pharmacist in the field and you're looking to get into industry, the drug safety information, or what we would say with the pharmacovigilance, would be like the signal detecting of a adverse event for a product and to monitoring for that. The last semester, students do take the capstone, and then they do take 2 of their required electives in the program. And you'll see once again with the flexibility of the program, you'll see the electives. We do have the flexibility for students learning a little bit more about the drug regulatory affairs. So they are eligible to take classes relating to medical devices or law and healthcare compliance, as well as law and health policy of drugs and devices. You'll see there that if the student wants to specialize their studies a little bit more, not just within clinical investigation and development, but want to learn a little bit more about medical devices or regulatory affairs, they're eligible to take those DRA courses. If they want to learn more about the chemistry, manufacturing, controls of drugs, the CMC process, which is a huge component within regulatory affairs, they can take the CMC course, as well as the PEP courses, which are the health economics and outcomes research, as well as the health service and outcomes research class there as well. And we also do have that practicum course similar to what we had with the regulatory sciences program as well, and as well as a directed study.
So again, all 4 programs have the opportunity of switching from one to the other. The clinical investigation and the regulatory sciences are STEM and offer the practicum or internship. Within this discussion of the internship, Dr. Frankhauser, you mentioned that the faculty of all 4 programs, either all or most, have professional activities outside of their teaching activities. Could you give us specifics on what kinds of activities these professionals have that they bring to the classroom?
Sure. A couple of our professors that teach in the program, just some experience for you. One of them actually works as a vice president of regulatory affairs for a small oncology company in the Boston area. That individual comes in and will be able to talk about the new drug application, the NDA process. We also have individuals that work within industry in the international realm of international regulatory affairs. So we have senior managers in global international regulatory affairs teaching in our classes as well. And we do have an individual who speaks on the human subjects protection from an IRB perspective as well. So a lot of the faculty, they do have full-time jobs within other areas, but what they do is they come back and they want to teach in our programs, and they teach to their specialties. The individual that teaches CMC has over 20 years of experience working from small startup companies to larger companies, working in the area of chemistry, manufacturing, and controls as well. So they can speak to the issue of what they see on a typical day, and like what it's really like in the field of the regulatory affairs or the clinical research investigations perspective as well. You know, one of the individuals that teaches in the capstone course actually works within an IRB at the university or within a academic medical center, and they share with the students, you know, what are the requirements for creating a protocol and to be successful in completing that IRB submission.
So these connections with the industry, these professors that you bring in, I'm guessing a lot of it has to do with the fact that you yourself come from the industry, have worked in the industry, and also you've been working at MCPHS, teaching and directing these programs for many, many years. Could you also talk to us about the location of the Boston campus and how that impacts the maintaining of these relationships and the access to these professionals to bring them into the program?
Sure. So what we have here on screen is you can see the location of MCPHS University. We're located in the Longwood medical area of Boston, and the Longwood medical area of Boston is just it's southwest of downtown Boston. But what's interesting about the Longwood medical area is that not only do we have MCP located within our within the area, but also there are many hospitals that are renowned within the Longwood medical area. We have Boston Children's Hospital, we have the Brigham and Women's Hospital. We also have the Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center here. And then just a little bit outside of the Longwood medical area, we have Mass General Hospital and Tufts Medical Center, as well as Boston Medical Center. So we do, in the area of Boston, we have many world-renowned hospitals and academic medical centers. But also within our small area here, we do have industry as well. You'll see right down the street is Merck. There's also, you know, you have, like, in the other, you know, expanding outwards in the Cambridge area, we do have Pfizer and Biogen. You know, Takeda is located here in the Boston area, as well as Vertex. So there are large numbers of pharmaceutical and biotech companies located within either the Longwood medical area itself or expanding outwards. And, you know, there are other universities in the area. As the map shows, we're located across from the Harvard Medical School, and also MIT is located in Cambridge as well. So you'll see that we are in a area that has, I believe, close to 22 institutions with 3 major Harvard affiliated teaching hospitals within our small geographic area. Those of you that are sports fans, you'll note that Longwood medical area is also adjacent to Fenway Park. So we are in that Fenway Park area, which is a walkable distance from the university. But we are also accessible by T, which is the subway for Boston. So we're in between a couple different Green Line stops at the university, so we are accessible that way. You know, so we are, I want to say we're in a great area, especially in Boston, Cambridge area, for the life sciences and the biotech industry.
And we've been here for about 200 years. So that, would you say, also has helped these longstanding affiliations with the professionals in the area and with the institutions?
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that also helps to bring back the connections to the program. So as being actually technically MCPHS is the oldest university in Boston. You know, many people believe it's Harvard, but Harvard's located in Cambridge. But MCPHS is the oldest university within the city of Boston. We just celebrated our 200th anniversary this past year. But with being within being the oldest institution within Boston, we also have a large number of alumni who want to give back to the program as well. Whether they come in and they want to teach a class, or maybe they can't commit to teaching a lecture, but they want to come in and maybe do a guest lecture for one of our student organizations or one of our classes. So we do have that networking of alumni, and our alumni are vast degrees of expertise, whether they're not just within pharmacy, but they are within that life science industry as well. So we do have a large network of individuals that want to come back to the university and to contribute one way or the other.
One of the questions that a student would want to know when considering any program is, what are the structures that allow or sustain these relationships, these professional relationships that allow that bridge from studies to employability. And this is where I turn to you, Neha. Maybe you've been studying and working in this location for about a year, I think, and we'd love to hear your perspective on how has your experience been, and tell us about living, working, and studying the Longwood medical area from a student's perspective.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ita. So I just want to bring it to attention that the reason why I chose MCPHS is, of course, its location. We see that LMA and Cambridge is packed with medical and pharmaceutical companies. And I definitely do sense a great amount of opportunities in this area to advance my career as a regulatory profession. Also, again, why MCPHS is because one of my friend, she's an alumni of MCPHS. She did her PharmD from Worcester campus of MCPHS University. And when I talked with her, it gave me a clear guidance as why she chose and why I think that MCPHS would be the best choice as a university for me. Second thing is Dr. Frankhauser mentioned that I had an opportunity to pursue this program online as well, Master's in Regulatory Affairs and Health Policies. But from a student's perspective, I see that it is very, very, very important for us to be associated and involved with the professors, because at MCPHS we have great deal of great panel of professors who has the knowledge that they possess in this area is unimaginable. Their connections in the field, and they are of the great essence for the student. The guidance we receive from them, it's just very valuable. Now, this gives us an edge again, because as Dr. Frankhauser mentioned, the alumni, they do come back to contribute to teach at MCPHS. I have professors who have been associated with MCPHS in one way or the other as a student many years ago, or maybe recent graduate. They come back and they contribute, and they want to be associated with MCPHS itself. Now, as a student, from the careers perspective options, we have career services. They help us with the internship. They also help us building the resume. They also help us building the, having a mock interview kind of questions and scenarios that prepare us to, be comfortable enough in an interview to ask the necessary question and to be confident enough in ourselves. We have organizations like RAPS, that's the Regulatory Affairs and Professional Society, which provides us platform to the students and to the regulatory professionals to stay updated on the current event in the field. Now, as a student, this is my third semester that I'll be completing this spring. I have been involved in MCPHS as a student because I have an on-campus employment opportunity. I'm working as an international student ambassador in the International Admissions Office, and this gives me an opportunity to connect with the students worldwide, one-on-one, to share my experiences on why MCPHS, how and why MCPHS, what the programs we offer, what I have learned, and what I will be learning in future to, gradually settle down in Boston and call Boston my home in true sense. I think MCPHS does provide us that edge with the professors who are actually involved at various levels in regulatory field. So that's that connection that we get pursuing this program on campus. It's amazing. Thank you.
That was fantastic. Thank you, Neha, for sharing your experience. What about living in Boston, living in an urban setting? How have you experienced that? Just Boston as a city in general, from a student's perspective.
So Ita, so as I mentioned, I came here from Canada. I used to go around downtown Toronto, and if I compared that to Boston, not to be biased, but Boston is very safe. I'm going to be, up in there and tell you. So there are also, as Dr. Frankhauser mentioned, the commuter transit, the T line, the green line, the orange line, they are very accessible through MCPHS. We have like almost 5 to 7 public parking garages around MCPHS, so they are accessible to students. We also have lots of street parking available if students are commuting via their car. I actually live in the area where the Longwood medical area has a shuttle buses running between my location of living and then to MCPHS. That's like literally climbing on the bus right outside my community and getting dropped off at the gate of MCPHS. So I am exploring so much of Boston because MCPHS provides a great deal of opportunities for students to engage themselves outside of MCPHS. Like we have so many, we have so many on-campus and off-campus activities where we are given option to explore Boston, like the Freedom Trail we go on, or we have the Clam Queue. So it's, I think I find Boston very safe in general, and I'm enjoying my life in Boston. Absolutely.
Thanks, Neha. We're happy to hear that. If we could come back to the industry in general, because we're talking about 4 different programs, all of which basically evolve in the industry of the pharmaceutical industries and eventually the life science industries. Back to Dr. Frankhauser, could you please talk to us a little bit about the health of the industry? How is the industry doing? Is it expanding or is it a shrinking industry? Because it's important for students who are going to be investing basically their next 20 years in it.
Sure, happy to, Ida. When we look at this chart here, we see that life sciences and the growth of employment by industry, between 2006 to 2021, the life science industry has far exceeded the growth as it relates to, utilities, education, the retail trade, as well as within the finance sector as well, and insurance. In the United States, when we look not just within the US, but we look globally as well, the Boston and Cambridge area ranks very high in the areas of life science industry, as well as the biotech industry as well. And Boston and Massachusetts is very unique in that Boston, I believe, was like ranked globally, like number 8 at the time as it relates to biotechnology, but also in the United States, it ranks 2nd behind San Francisco and San Jose. But the other interesting thing to note is that, we are located in Massachusetts, and Boston has a growing, expanding field of the life science industry, but also a city just west of Massachusetts, just west of Boston, a city called Worcester, Massachusetts, is also causing an increase in the number of job and opportunities in the life science industry there. So, we stand at that pivotal moment within industry and our time where we're looking at biotechnology and the life science industry, and we see that this does have exponential growth in the opportunities for people to find employment in that field, whether it be from a large pharmaceutical company, a small medical device company, working at a hospital as a research coordinator, or even in maybe smaller physician offices conducting clinical research. Every day you'll hear information about how, the biotech industry or the pharmaceutical industry, and you'll see, new therapies coming to market, and you could be part of that exciting field of, taking a product maybe from discovery, working with it and seeing how it actually goes to commercialization. And that's the field that you're looking into pursuing and to starting your career. And we, really hope that MCPHS is that educational unit, that first step, and for you to build that career.
Thank you very much, Dr. Frankhauser, and thank you very much, Neha. We tried to have a collection of questions that are important for students to ask as they're considering any program. I've put a few of them here on the slide. as we've gone through, we've noticed that it's important to ask whether or not the curriculum has been designed with the quickly evolving industry and the latest trends in these sectors. We need to make sure that the curriculum and program design allows flexibility. We've seen the kind of flexibility that this program offers, having the option of all 4 programs when you are admitted into one, and being able to move for some of the programs into online courses. It's important to ask what the program has as structures which connect students to the job market, to job professionals, so that, as Dr. Frankhauser said, we don't start our job search in our last semester. The job search and the focus on employability is consistent from the very beginning and throughout the structure of the program. How does the faculty interact with the industry? Are faculty current professionals, current industry professionals? Does the program offer curricular opportunity for hands-on experience and research? This is the practicum that we described. And does the program allow for work after graduation in the United States, and if so, for how long? Those are just a few, but I turn back to the panelists. We have 2 minutes left. I welcome your comments, and I'd like to start with Neha and then let Dr. Frankhauser finish. Neha, are there any other questions that you think students who are considering these careers and are looking at programs, questions they should be asking of programs? Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Thank you, Ita. Yes. So one thing I would like to share is that both regulatory affairs and regulatory sciences, these 2 programs, they are guided in a way that no matter in what field, be it medical device, like bioengineering or pharmaceutics to its core, they are related, you get an overall and thorough knowledge of all these industries, be it cosmetics, medical device, or you name it. Through the program, as Dr. Frankhauser mentioned, if you want to pursue, if you decide that, you know what is best for you and what kind of industry is more appealing to you or you would like to pursue on, you have absolutely option to choose that electives to have more knowledge and information about those industries. For me, I would like to go into medical dental device industry. So I have laws governing medical device industry incorporated in my program as an elective program. As a Canadian, I wanted to learn about all the other Health Canada's policies. So I have incorporated international regulatory affairs as a part of my curriculum. So the professors involved in this program, they give us very hands-on experience on what's the difference between the FDA and Health Canada, what are the guidelines, XYZ, how they both are interrelated to each other or not. So this gives us a general idea of the whole regulatory science and affairs field, as well as any specific information that you need. And professors, they don't restrict themselves to the curriculum. If we have any questions, or if we want to learn more, they're always open, and actually they encourage us to ask more questions and incorporate any other more information in the program, so that not just me myself, but all of my other colleagues in my program, they can benefit from that as well. And as how often faculty interact with industry professionals, I think most of our faculty that I have come across with, they are actually working in the industry. So they are on day-to-day basis. They are more updated. They share their day-to-day life, their day-to-day experiences. And in a true sense, we are getting how the regulatory affairs or regulatory science field works every day. We are learning about that every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Neha. Dr. Frankhauser.
I'd just like to end by saying thanks everyone for your attention and your attending this discussion today about MCPHS and the various programs that we have, whether it be the Regulatory Affairs and Health Policy Program, the Regulatory Sciences, the Clinical Investigation and Development, or the Clinical Research Program. And we're happy to answer questions or that may come up. And if you have questions about the programs, feel free to contact us.
In turn, I will also thank everyone for your presence, for listening, for questions that you submitted in the question and answer. We weren't able to answer all of them, but we are always available. Please don't hesitate. This QR code will take you to a page that will give you all of our emails and contact details. Thank you very much for listening. Please check out all of the other webinars in this series, asking the right questions, because this is an important choice for you and we want to be here to help. Thank you. Have a good day. Have a good evening.